of that position. And then Brian's going to talk about the training program and what's involved for both the candidate and if this were to move into a full-time opportunity. So with that, I'm going to get started. So a little bit about us. You know, Medtronic is a huge company. If you've done any research on us, you'll see how many different disease states and just conditions of the body that our devices and therapeutics and procedural systems and things touch. So it's a pretty impressive portfolio of products that we do have. And back in 1960, our founder, Earl Bakken, penned our mission. And as this slide says, the mission really does drive everything that we do. There's 6 main tenets to the mission. The first one being kind of the main one, if you were to look up our mission, that you would see. The first 2 are really highlighting the importance of biomedical engineering in our innovation. But I just want to call out the first one in particular: to contribute to human welfare by application of biomedical engineering in the research, design, manufacture, and sale of instruments or appliances that alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. So, and then the rest of them, as you see, number 2, calling out the importance of biomedical engineering in our growth. Obviously, we strive to reserve the best possible reliability and quality. We hope to make a fair profit. We recognize the personal worth of all of our employees, and maintaining good citizenship in the world is very important to us as a company. Now, as this builds out, you'll see when we were founded in 1949, Earl pretty much founded Medtronic in his garage. That's Earl sitting there, creating the first external pacemaker. And then, as you can see through the years, our innovation has really changed and allowed us to branch out into other disease states. In 2015, we acquired a very large company called Covidien, which made us an even bigger company. And from there, we've really continued to innovate and really grow and advanced in our technology. I just want to point out the division that we work in is our cardiac rhythm management. And so for us, it's our implantable pacemakers and defibrillators, and we do have an implantable loop recorder. And if you look up at the top, it shows the first implantable pacemaker. You see the size of that in the palm of someone's hand. Down at the bottom, right next to the right of where it says 2015, you can see our new transcatheter pacemaker that's pretty much the size of the tip of someone's pinky. And it lasts about 10 years. So that's a pretty cool technology that we've actually the first to market. And so far, we're still the only to market with a product like that. So just to point out one pretty cool thing that our teams get to work with. So Medtronic is really committed to transforming healthcare overall in 3 main areas. Obviously, innovation I've touched on. Our company really strives to offer the best therapeutic, procedural, and system level innovation. Also globalization, addressing some of the inequalities in terms of access to healthcare globally. And also leading in value-based healthcare solutions. It's not just about selling the device or addressing the specific disease state, but really how do we help better manage patients overall. So how do we do it? Well, one thing that is really important to Medtronic is its employees. They're our best resource, and as you can see, we have a very strong force of folks, 90,000 employees. Of that, 10,700 or more scientists and engineers, and we have over 1,700 clinical professionals. And if you look at the investments we've made in R&D and clinical investments, the amount of patents we hold, the number of clinical trials we're involved in, you'll see how and why we're a leader in the industry. Also just wanted to point out, these are a few media organizations and us being recognized as a leader in the workplace and recognizing our devotion to diversity and inclusion. We've been recognized as a best run company. Globally, we're known as models for others. And if you see that last one there we've been rated high for best company for recent grads. So these are just a few of many that I wanted to pull out and highlight. So the ACE Summer Associate Program is our summer internship program that I'm going to start to give a little bit more detail, but also explain what we hope this role eventually moves into. So the ACE Summer Internship Program or Summer Associate Program is a field-based type of internship and where the individual would work side by side with our field employees in delivering medical technology and clinicians to clinicians and patients. It really allows the student to really get a sense of what it is our field folks do day to day. We have a very talented and diverse team of people in the field, and working with them, you would be involved in implant procedures, device troubleshooting and follow-up, and launch new and innovative products. We are currently in launch phase with a couple of new products now, and you'd be able to see how we're really able to bring that mission that we talked about that is so important, foundation to our company, how we bring that to life. Also too, I touched on potentially leading to a full-time position. At this point, I really want to stress the type of candidate that we really hope to select for this internship. So this will be a summer program, but we also do, and I'll get into this in the next slide, but we do want to stay engaged with the candidate over their senior year as well. Part of that time will be spent getting some of the foundational training that all of our new hires in the clinical specialist role receive. But once this individual graduates, we hope that if it's a good fit for both the company and for the individual who was the summer intern, that they would move into one of these clinical specialist roles somewhere within our region. So I want to stress that because if you're someone who plans to go into grad school post-graduation, this wouldn't be the right fit for you. We really want to limit this to individuals who are not planning to go to grad school, who would be looking for full-time position post-graduation. We're going to get into a little bit more of what's involved in the clinical specialist role because you're very much hands-on and involved in many of these aspects of patient care. You're going to be communicating with customers, and that would be physicians, nurses, could be administrators of the hospital at times, all the way to the patient. So you're communicating at very different levels. So you could be communicating very high level with a physician about the specific algorithms of the device and how it interacted with the patient's arrhythmia, all the way down to really simplifying how the device worked for a patient who may not understand those specifics, but is really looking to you to help explain and make them feel better about this device that they received. So communication skills is really important, comfort level and communicating and you know, just being able to kind of transition from those types of conversations on a day-to-day basis. So here's kind of the three stages of the program itself. The first stage is obviously where we are today, talking about some of the key aspects of what we would like to see in candidates. Someone who's very technically competent, you know, someone who's in a biomedical engineering program, doing well in their program is likely someone who is going to pick up on the technical aspects. Our training is very, very technical. It's very long. Brian will kind of get into the specifics of that. But it is a very high level, very technical training process. But we find that why we're here talking to biomedical engineering students is they tend to pick up on that very quickly. So that's why we're targeting this group of folks. So we're also looking for individuals who are completing their junior year this year, so current juniors. We're looking for somebody who's going to be going back to school after the summer intern program. People that are self-motivated, self-directed, have a strong work ethic, someone who's got a good EQ or emotional intelligence, someone who's able to be very agile and flexible. This job that hopefully will lead to a full-time position. You never know when your day's going to end or start. You never know when it's going to end, and anything can happen in between. So, and again, Sally will touch on that a little bit. And then we want people that are very engaged and involved in their programs, taking leadership roles and that type of thing. I will at this point mention one of the things that I've found in interviewing candidates for this role is they really focus, and I'm saying don't focus on this. This is good to focus on, but there's a lot more focus on the research projects, the different things of the program that you're currently in itself. And there's not a whole lot of mention of maybe part-time jobs that you've held, whether it be in high school or college. I would like to see those things as well, because I want to get a sense of, have you worked in a customer service type role where you've had to deal with different people? Have you been able to be a leader on a team, either with work or maybe even in sports? That's a good call out as well. So try to include other things as well. Obviously, those things are really important that you're doing within your program, but I do want to see if you have those examples. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not saying don't apply. I'm just saying if they're there, put them on your resume. I want to see them because I'm going to want to talk about them. So stage 2 is the summer portion of this program. And again, as I mentioned, you're going to be shadowing and working with the folks in the field. Brian is the field engineer in the Richmond district, and he'll be the one that's going to be helping this individual work through their training requirements, helping them work with different folks on the team to kind of get different things that are needed at different parts along the way in the training program. And then at the end of the summer, the individual, based on whatever topic of choice from what they've learned over the summer, will present a capstone presentation to the local team. Now, one thing I also want to emphasize here is we are looking for people who are already planning to be in the Richmond area this summer. So if you're going back home to, a different state or somewhere, this probably isn't a good program for you to apply to. We're not offering housing for it. We do offer an hourly stipend for $22 an hour, but we aren't including in this any housing. So hopefully folks are planning to stay in the Richmond area during the summer. And then stage 3 is when you go back for your senior year, depending on what your schedule looks like. If you've got time to be able to fit in at least 8 hours a week is what we like to see. So again, it'd be working with the local team here in Richmond. But what we want is somebody to be able to stay engaged. You learn a lot through the summer, and hopefully if this is a good fit all around, you'd pick up on that training after you graduate and move on. So we want you to be able to stay engaged and kind of keep those skills sharpened as you move throughout your senior year. And it could be a possibility, and again, Brian will get into the specifics of the different phases of training, but depending on when the timing of the winter break is of the candidate, we might even be able to fit in another phase of training if that's a good option for the individual. So I just wanted to mention that as well. So this is just kind of an outline of what to expect. I mean, we're here tonight talking about the program. As I mentioned, I did say in the handshake posting to not apply until after you've had a chance to listen to the Q&A. And the reason for that is this is a very atypical internship. It's not in research and development, which I know appeals to a lot of folks. I did want to really emphasize some of the different key aspects of it so that you knew what you'd be getting yourself into. If you don't like the sight of blood, that could be a problem. If you're not someone who's super outgoing and gets energy off of working and interacting with other people, may not be the best program. So just wanted to make sure that people truly understood what this role was. And as I mentioned already, we do hope that this individual will be a good fit for our business, and also that for the individual, it'll be good fit for them personally to move into a full-time position as a clinical specialist. This is really a unique opportunity because the one thing that folks like Sally and myself have the hardest time doing is explaining what this job is really like to individuals who haven't done it or seen it. It really is, it's not a career choice, it truly is a lifestyle choice. So we really want to make sure that we paint the most accurate picture of what this would be before you even apply for the internship. So what does the application process look like? The posting is in Handshake, as you guys know. Please submit a resume and a cover letter. The cover letter is super important because I want you to tell me why you're interested in this internship and why you think you'd be a good fit for it. So that's a key part of this application process. So just submit it via handshake, and that'll be great. And here's a few folks from prior cohorts and a couple comments and quotes from them. Sarah from University of California, Riverside said that the hands-on structure and being able to experience what a clinical specialist does on a daily basis was her favorite part. Sultan from University of Miami said that for him, every day was a learning experience and he loved every minute of it. And Natalie from Marquette said the ACE program allowed her to study virtually and experience in-person implants and clinics for a truly holistic experience. And that's a great kind of, kind of summing up what we hoped that the folks, the individuals in these programs do see is really a true full picture of what this role is. And one thing I do want to mention, this isn't binding on either side. If you get into this and it's not what you expected or really what motivates you and excites you, you're not bound to anything. And the same on our side. If we just find that the individual is not the right fit for the role, we're not bound either. So I don't want anyone to feel like, I know I keep stressing that, you'd be interested in moving into a full-time role, but I don't want you to feel like you're bound to anything. That's the whole point of this program, is to make sure that people have a full appreciation, they think it's a good fit, and we want people entering into these full-time roles really, really excited about it and wanting to be doing that as their career. And then this is just a position overview of the clinical specialist role. And as I mentioned, they provide technical, educational, and I didn't mention this, but sales support to assist the district in meeting our pacemaker and defibrillator sales and customer service objectives. We are a sales, a sales organization. So we are always wanting to be strategic among our teams and making sure that we're highlighting our exclusives and really, setting Medtronic apart from the competition. And there's a lot of great things to be proud of as a Medtronic employee, and our innovation and technology is one of them. And I find that most people do get excited about being able to work for a company like Medtronic, who is an innovative leader. And so our cardiac rhythm management division, we seek candidates who will meet our customer expectations by striving without reserve for the greatest possible reliability and quality, as mentioned in our mission, and our products and processes and systems by being accountable, having a voice, and taking action. So the clinical specialists, they assist our sales representatives in covering the business of our territory. And they work side by side with our reps. We have reps who are responsible for a territory and the clinical specialists. From a day-to-day perspective, the roles look very similar, but they do have different responsibilities and accountability. So just wanted to mention that. So with that, I will hand it over to Sally.
Well, thank you so much, Angela. This is really great to be able to speak to the day in the life of a clinical specialist. And in my book, just as you said, Medtronic is such a fantastic organization, and each and every clinical specialist that I've encountered since I've been with Medtronic has had a true passion. And as you said, really engages and embraces the lifestyle of what we get to do every single day. It certainly is a unique role, without a doubt, in a unique organization, being able to impact the role in so many different spaces, not only of the patient, but of our customers and healthcare. So you've heard the word over and over again, unique. Well, indeed, it is unique. And with that comes this opportunity. This program is outstanding. It really gives you the glimpse into an otherwise not necessarily known role that biomedical engineering is very successful in. So what does it look like to be a day in the life of a clinical specialist? Well, I like to think of it kind of in 4 buckets. Business execution is one of those buckets. Angela spoke to that a bit. I'll go a little bit deeper into that. Operations, every position that you have within the workforce has some level of operations that you have to deal with in a day out, sort of facilitating the tools of what you need to do in order to meet the business execution as well as the service of evolution. Clinical specialist is considered a service-based, field-based role. So you will indeed be in the field in multiple environments, which we'll go into. And Angela also touched on education, and I know Brian's going to go a little bit deeper into that, what that looks like from the ACE perspective, but also what that looks like in the day in the life of for the clinical specialist. So let's start off with the first of those four key buckets, business execution. Indeed, we are a sales organization. What's so special and unique about the sales organization that we're in here is we get to provide the tools for physicians to change the lives and impact the health and wellness of people within the community from a cardiac perspective. So we indeed provide the tools for those who have issues with their heart, specifically the electrophysiology aspect of their heart. We have implantable devices that address fast rhythms, slow rhythms, and rhythms that just need to be resynchronized, as well as devices that just watch, which are those implantable loop recorders. As Angela said, they have come quite a long way from Earl's Garage to the point now where we have devices that are very small, the size of what one might think of as a potassium pill or the edge of your pinky that get implanted. You in the business space, if you were a clinical specialist, would be supplying those tools for the physician as well as helping them program those tools based on the pathophysiology specific to that patient, which is an incredibly awesome responsibility. And it comes with a deep depth and breadth knowledge, I should say, of the technology itself, so that you can match, the algorithm or the therapy that's offered on these various devices to the pathophysiology that the patient is coming with, all with, sharing this knowledge from our company to those providers. So you need to first and foremost be able to understand the technology itself, and in the role that you are right now and what you're pursuing from an education background, being in biomedical engineering kind of lends itself to that sort of interest level. But being able to build and maintain authentic relationships, not only with our customers, but within our team. As Angela said, the most important part of our company are our people. So being able to develop those relationships with our customers as well as our team in order to help do what we do every day in getting the right devices into the right patients. So that takes me to daily operations. What does that look like? What are we doing? Well, we serve multiple hospitals, multiple clinics throughout the Richmond area. You would be paired in a specific space to serve within a specific territory, working with multiple people within that team. Again, and there's quite a bit of teamwork, but then there's some spaces that are autonomous as well in the clinical specialist role. So what do? Well, we assist in implanting these devices. That is, we are in the area, whether that be a laboratory or operating room, as some might think it, if they hadn't been in those spaces before, serving to kind of in a consultation method to help them implant that device. We're not actually physically putting the device in or putting our physical hands in while we're implanting, but we certainly are in the environment providing the tools and the programming of that device while it's being implanted and then after it's been implanted in that environment. So you would be working with a diversity of people all the way from an implanting physician through, of course, someone who would be sort of running the operations within that space, within that hospital, nurses, technicians, radiology specialists, hospital administrators. So a very unique, again, using that word, position in that you would be really talking with and communicating with and delivering services and technologies to pretty much every walk all the way through to the patient themselves. So what does that look like? Well, you could be in that procedural area where the device is being implanted, or it could also be in the space where once that device has been implanted, it needs to be followed. So that patient will present into the clinical setting where they need to have their device interrogated. So basically we utilize technology, programmer, to look and see what that device has seen since we implanted it all the way through the length of the patient's life. That time that they're going to come and see their physician is scheduled by the physician. We really don't deal with that sort of thing, but they do call upon us once that patient has been scheduled to come into that clinic and help them look at those devices and help optimize what that device can do based on those therapies that the device can offer. So again, really have to have that technical acumen to understand what the device can do to best match it with what the physician is needing to manage that patient. So not only would you be there for with the device being implanted, you would also be there as the device is followed in the clinical setting. And let's face it, our patients go everywhere within the hospital system. So wherever the patients go is where we go. So this could very well be somebody receiving radiation therapy or chemotherapy where they need to have their device interrogated before or after. Perhaps they're receiving some other surgery or they're getting an MRI. That's also a place where we might find ourselves within that hospital. So not only in the clinical setting, but also in the procedural operating setting, or really anywhere that patient might land. The emergency room might be another place that we would find ourselves. So in those daily operations, what do we do? How do we do this? Well, there's lots of things that we do. I could go on and on and on tonight about all the very different things that we have to do on a daily basis. But the one thing that I would say as a key takeaway from what our daily operation is it's ever changing. And it requires somebody who kind of likes that change, being able to engage in not necessarily knowing, okay, at this hour, I'm going to do this thing. And from this thing, I'm going to do that thing. You very well may start with a schedule that changes very quickly, that requires you to turn on the dime and head in a new direction, which again, all the clinical specialists that I know and everybody that I've encountered in our business unit, they thrive in that space. They like the diversity, they like the change, they like the challenge to be matched with the fantastic technology that we can deliver to our customers. So what does that look like? Well, because we're not staying in one place or one hospital and we're all over wherever our customers might land, we have to carry our implements with us. So the clinical specialist is required to have and maintain inventory to be able to deliver that when it's needed, as well as the programmers and things of that nature. But more than those things, those widgets that we have to work with, is the functional technical knowledge in our minds that, because we're such an innovative company, is continually growing. So being able to maintain the technical acumen and being able to deliver that, not only in the physical sense by having the inventory itself or the programmer to optimize the delivery of those implements, being able to understand the technology so that you can communicate it to all those levels of care, whether that be the provider or the patient who's really just trying to understand, what did I just get and how is it going to help me and how is this going to change what I'm doing every day. To that end is the education piece. And clearly, if you're in a biomedical engineering program at a prestigious school is what you're in now, you embrace and love education. Education is one of the cornerstones of what we get to do every day. Not only do we get to provide the education to our customers, to our patients, to one another, we get to receive this education from this fantastic company, Medtronic, who is innovative and has been innovating from the very first pacemaker that Earl created in his garage to what now we have as world technology, that we are standing alone with this catheter-based pacing system. So being able to continue your education, maintain your education of the technology while delivering all of this fantastic care to everyone that we serve within our company. A lot of this is autonomously done. You would be responsible for being able to know that you have what you need, obviously, having benchmark going through, which Brian will talk with you a bit more about. But we have an incredible array of education available to us ongoing. In fact, I'm sure you'll see within some of the media that we provide for you, the Medtronic Academy is a space that could help prepare you in going into some of these spaces, in addition to what Brian will go through for you. So to that end, what I'd like to do to go deeper into what education will come within this program, I'm going to hand it off to Brian, and I look forward to any questions that you might have as we close this in the day in the life of clinical specialists. Brian?
Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that, and great to be on this call with everyone. I'll dig into the technical and training aspect here in a minute, but I do want to just reemphasize what Angela and Sally have already said. This is a job for people who just love technology, love digging in and getting into algorithms and understanding how they work, and really having the heart of a teacher, someone who wants to communicate this not only to physicians who are thinking at a very high level, but also patients who may not understand the first thing about this device. But the other thing is, this is definitely a role for someone who, number one, considers themselves to be a people person, because we are interacting with people every day for long periods of time. And so it's got to be something that gives you energy, that you really enjoy. And the other part of that is you really do have to be very flexible. In our role, the start and end times of the day are not always well defined. And there's a lot of driving that we do from a practical standpoint. It's very common to drive hundreds to 1,000+ miles a month in this role, just depending on where you need to be. And so that is definitely part of the job and part of what you would experience if you come to our team and shadow us and work with us, which of course we would love to have you. Now, digging a little deeper into the technical aspects of the program, over the summer, you could hope to accomplish about 2 of the 4 levels of training that we have in our clinical specialist training process. And the first level we call level 1, and that's a 15-day online course. Much like any other online class, it's a mixture of online assessments, modules, one-on-one sessions, classes, and those kinds of things. And the focus of level 1 is really cardiac anatomy, a review, and cardiac rhythm interpretation. We work in cardiac rhythm management, and our physicians are electrophysiologists, which are cardiologists who have also specialized in electrophysiology. So interpreting rhythms is very important. You'll also go over basic pacing and ICD concepts, as well as cardiac disease states and how our devices help treat those diseases. After level 1 training, you move to level 2 training, and this is what we call basic skills, where there's more of a focus on hands-on training and practical training. Now, this is a course we used to send folks up to Minnesota for, but we've adapted it to online due to COVID-19. This is a course where you start to learn more about the implements of our trade, including the analyzer, which is used to test the pacemaker wires and components as the physician is placing them in the heart. And you get a little more of an in-depth view of how to test and check and program our devices. So that's a 5-day course. And so overall, you're looking at about a month's worth of classwork and training. And in addition to that, you'll be spending time in the field with a field mentor and myself, and you'll be shadowing us, and you'll be with us when we go into patient clinics and actually interact with patients directly, check their devices, run tests, read diagnostics, interpret them to the physician, as well as being in an implant setting where we're actually assisting physicians off to the side, doing electrical testing and so forth on the device components as they're going into the patient, as well as programming the device generators in the way that the physician prescribes. So it's really a very active role, a role where you're spending a lot of time in the field, you're spending a lot of time in class and really digging in. And that's a brief overview, but that gives you a sense of what you can hope to learn from the first 2 levels. And should you continue over the winter break, as Angela mentioned, there's a 3rd level, and this is Fundamental of Device Concepts course. And this course is where you really start to dig in deep on the algorithms within our device, learn them, memorize them, understand how they apply in a clinical setting. And so I'll go ahead and pause there and turn it back over to Angela.
Great. Thank you so much, Sally and Brian. That was great. I do have a couple questions in the chat that I wanted to address. So the first question is this program an in-person program or remote? It's very much an in-person program, hands-on. Brian mentioned there are some virtual learnings associated with the training program, but when you're not in those virtual classes, we expect the individual to be getting as much in-field experience as possible. Our folks, I know people are probably worried about what does this mean for the COVID environment that we're in. And that did pose a challenge last year with our last year's cohort, mainly because it limited the amount of people that we could put in procedures. A lot of hospitals didn't want people pairing up, but where they did allow it, we sent those individuals. Our field is essential. And so, they're very much in the hospital setting. We provided PPE for our employees. Those employees are expected to utilize that PPE. We're very successful in our folks being able to stay safe from the working environment in that situation. So just wanted to, I'm assuming that there may have been something related to COVID in that question, but maybe not. But I just wanted to address it in case others were thinking that. Also, I had a question about transportation. You would have to have your own transportation. During the internship, I mentioned an hourly stipend, but we do also provide mileage as well to help cover the cost of gas. If you were to move into a full-time position with the company, we do offer a stipend for a vehicle. You still provide your own car, but we would offer a monthly stipend as well as mileage in addition to that. Let's see, do all trainings happen before the internship starts or throughout the summer? It's actually throughout the summer. You can certainly go on Medtronic Academy, as Sally mentioned, to maybe get just an overview and get a sense of familiarity with some of the concepts. But the formal program, the training portion of that is involved as the summer starts. And how many internship positions are available? That's a great question. We have one. So just one. We have one from each of the schools that we're dealing with. This year, our company expanded the program for each region to be able to have one candidate from 3 different institutions. We first started out with one, then it expanded to 2, and now we're at 3. So that just goes to show what a success this program has been for our company, that they're willing to make the investment to expand. I do want to mention, I failed to mention this earlier, as far as where the individual may land after they're finished with the program and post-graduation, it could be anywhere within our region. And our region is New Jersey over to Philly and all the way down to North Carolina and everything in between, Virginia, Maryland, DC. And I just say that because we will likely have an opening. We just don't know exactly where it will be within our region. So the individual needs to be open to relocation anywhere within that geography. Now, as we get closer, typically in the past couple of years, around that late November timeframe, we've been able to move forward with those individuals that we plan to with full-time position offers. And then as you move closer to graduation, we'll have a much better indication as to where openings will be, and we'll be able to communicate that as we realize what our staffing needs are going to be. And I did address the transportation. It is self-provided. And like I mentioned, it's paid off of mileage to cover the gas. Does the company care about lack of experiences that is outside of the classroom research or other internships? I touched on this a little bit earlier. For me, I do like to see anything that may be in your experience that might indicate any work in customer service or working on teams or anything like that. It doesn't exclude you from being able to apply if you don't happen to have those things. But I care very much when I am interviewing someone who doesn't have professional experience, but you may have work experience that might give me a good indication of what your communication style may be. What is your work ethic? Have you been able to work in a team setting? How have you been able to show that you're a leader among a team? And many of those things can be shown also within some of your research work. So I just, if you've got it, put it on there. And then how long is the specialist, or how large, excuse me, is the specialist team in Richmond? I assume you mean the geography that this person would cover. Now we do typically, for the full-time positions, we do typically put someone within a certain territory, but our clinical specialists are a district resource. And our particular district here in Richmond is from the Tidewater area. So from like the Outer Banks, Virginia Beach area, all the way through Richmond or Tidewater, the peninsula, Richmond, and up to Fredericksburg. So we've got several different territories that we have people paired up. But depending on if someone's sick in a neighboring geography or, anything could happen, someone may have to go out on leave, maternity leave. We may have to send people from certain territories into others. So, and then for the internship program, it'll probably be mostly within the Richmond area or even maybe Fredericksburg a little bit, but there may be a great opportunity to have someone go shadow someone down in Tidewater. So it just depends on what it is you need for which phase of training. There's certain observations and things that need to be collected to prepare you for each phase. So we kind of play that by ear, depending on what the day presents. One thing I did, I think that's it for my questions. If anybody else is looking at this and see one that I may have missed, please let me know. One thing that Sally didn't mention, but I want to make sure, and if she did, forgive me, I don't recall her mentioning it, but I do want to make sure that you understand it is part of the clinical specialist role is on-call work. So our folks do work on call. How often that is really dependent on the team that they're paired with or how that particular district does their call. There really is no set rule for what call is to look like. Typically, it's over the weekend. It's a rotation of weekends among a team. So it could be anywhere from every 4 weekends to every 8 weekends. It just depends on how big the team is. Typically, if it's a bigger team, when you're on call, you're covering a bigger geography. So you may be less, but you might be busier. And then depending on the needs of individual teams, it could involve some weekday call. But our reps do take a higher amount of call, usually involving the holidays as well. So I did want to mention that is involved. We are working on technology and have been for quite some time to allow our accounts to utilize tablet technology to check devices that we can visualize the readouts remotely. So back when I was a rep in the field, anytime a patient needed to be checked, I had to get up, leave my house, could be 2 a.m, and I'd be going to an ER in the middle of the night to go check that patient. Now with the technology that we have, it might be just a matter of pulling up my iPad and looking to see what the readout shows. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're able to respond to that, but there is that 1 time out of 10 where you might see that a patient's device needs to be reprogrammed and you may have to go into an account. And again, that could be at any time when you're on call. So just wanted to mention that you will not be on call as an intern. But as this moves to a full-time position, that's eventually, once training is finished, you'd be a part of that rotation. And does anybody have any other questions? I mean, feel free, Carolyn, I don't know how you want to do it, but if people want to come off mute and ask a question, they can certainly do that or continue to use chat either way.
Hi,